Welcome to our Halloween special, where we're going to take you through some of the most famous phantom stories in Europe that became entangled in history, local legends, but also folklore. The first one is called the Myling. The Myling is the ghost of a murdered newborn in Scandinavian folklore. These unfortunate babies died at the hands of their unmarried mothers, victims of a society that stigmatized and withdrew support from women pregnant outside of marriages. These mothers often buried their unnamed babies in secret and never in consecrated grounds. As the children weren't baptized, their souls ended up in limbo, caught between our world and the next. In some legends, the ghost punished their mothers by driving them mad with guilt, or others drew attention to their mother's crime, revealing the illicit pregnancy and infanticide to the community. Even after punishing their mothers, the Myling continued to haunt the living, since the lack of the correct funeral rites kept the ghost earthbound. One of the villagers one day in one of the villages headed home along the valley, where the lamenting voice moaned and mewed at him. Yes, it was the Myling. Eventually the voice grew so loud it dislodged rocks from the cliffs, and one rock rolled at our villager. The rock sank to the size of a baby's head, and when it stopped at his feet, it morphed into a baby that crawled up his leg, begging the villager to save it. Finally, the villager carried the baby down a stream, where he baptized the child. When he made the sign of the cross over the child, the ghost vanished and was never heard again. The Myling remains a fragment of these bygone times, but a fragment that still resonates with women around the world who face social challenges for having children outside the marriage. Another story that has haunted European folklore is the Dullahan. The figure of the Headless Horseman is a familiar one. The Headless Horseman first appears in Irish folklore tales as the Dullahan, roaming the land looking for victims. Most stories describe him as riding a similar headless black horse or riding in a coach made of coffins pulled by a team of 6 black horses. The horses breathe fire from their noses and strike up fire on the ground as they run. It certainly makes for a lasting impression. He holds his head aloft as he rides, looking for victims with his glowing eyes. All he has to do is speak the name of his victims, and he can only say it once. The person will die, and they won't be able to avoid their fate. The Dullahan causes death without warning, and there is little rhyme or reason as to why he takes those he takes. The Dullahan is active after sunset or on particular feast days, causing people to avoid looking outside for fear of seeing him as he passes. If you did find yourself outside after dark and heard him coming, you would throw gold onto the ground in his path, which would force his horses to stop and run to the other direction. There are other descriptions of the Dullahan and his coach. For example, the coach is described the wheel spokes being made from the femurs of dead men, while skulls hang from the coach as lamps. The rumbling made by the coach as it draws near is something just as frightening as the awful vision of the headless horses and human remains used to make the carriage. The Dullahan's horrifying coach sometimes is accompanied by a banshee who is making his visit known. Another frightening story from the European folklore is the Strigoi. There are two types of Strigoi, the living Strigoi and the dead Strigoi. The Strigoi mort first returns as a form of poltergeist, wreaking havoc in their family home. This is the reason many European burial customs see people confuse the spirit, so it can't return to its home after the funeral. By taking a maddening route or carrying the body feet first, the Strigoi mort can resume their physical form after a week, feeding on their family as they do so, but visiting their graves every day. They must be beheaded and their bodies burned within 7 years to end their rampages. If they aren't, they will feed from the link to their grave and can spread chaos wherever they like. Some of the legends say simply being cruel or violent in life is enough to turn you into a Strigoi. You can diminish the Strigoi by pushing a silver needle through their heart in their corpse state before they are buried to stop them from transforming into a Strigoi. Or driving an iron spike through the corpse into the ground, usually keeping the Strigoi pinned to the ground. Infants were especially targeted by the Strigoi, so during a birth, anyone present would throw a stone behind them while saying, "This is in the mouth of the Strigoi." The Strigoi fed on the living family members either by draining their energy or drinking their blood, so babies would be particularly vulnerable. There are legends in Romania that last until our recent days. Last acknowledgement of a Strigoi was in 2003 when a family was attacked by an uncle who recently died, turned into a Strigoi, and then members of the family started dying one after the other. The people in the village understood that this was a Strigoi and went by the customs to pin him down, go and cut his head off and stake him to the ground. But the curse didn't stop. The niece of the uncle felt very sick, drained of energy, and was about to die when they concocted a special mixture from the earth of the grave mixed with some smashed bones and made her feel much better and stopped the Strigoi and stopped his curse. But again, you can also make bags, for example, containing stones, grains, apples, mirrors, and a comb to put under the corpse's head, so if they become Strigoi, leaving this world would enable them to lie quietly in the grave. Let's hope we never meet one of these haunting ghosts in European culture. These were the 3 stories that we wanted to tell you about from the ghost lore regarding Europe.